And we're live. Assalamu
Walaikum salam.
Okay,
Alaikum
topic at hand. My magnum opus. No, it's not. I don't know. Wait. So, Muhammadan Vision. Bismillah. Um, I listened
Muhammadan
to.
Vision?
That's what I called it.
It's the Muhammadan Presence, isn't it?
Muhammadan Presence, Muhammadan Vision is. We're trying to be Sunnah here about it, bro. Like,
You should know your article.
I know. Now, here's the thing. So, it's like, I don't know. I guess I had a little bit of inspiration for the topic at hand for today. Um, I like the Thinking Muslim podcast. Comes out of the UK, out of London. And the host of on occasion will have Imam Tom Ficini, who works for the Yaqeen Institute and he's from Jersey. He's Italian. Um,
Mm.
Imam Tom, just like mashallah, dude's like super on point. Anyway, there's an interview I'm listening to him with Muhammad Jalad, and this is whole thing about a vision and what do Muslims believe. And I remember like being in RAS that one year. This was like Hamza, what was that year when Dr. Jackson read his article, What I Believe in? You don't remember? This was a while ago. I'll
No,
put it
I
in the
don't
show
remember.
notes. I'll put it in the show notes. It was a freaking good piece, man.
Was that when all of us were there at the same time?
Were you? I don't know. He goes, I believe in this and I believe in that. And Islam supports this, my support for the United States and democracy and all these other things. It was like this super, it was Dr. Jackson, super academic. It was like super thorough piece he did.
Hmm.
That Sami Hamdi, Mem Tom, my own like thoughts and 2 cents. Eventually, I was just like, okay, I gotta like put pen to paper. So I started, and then this came, and I did a draft on like the Zaytuna alumni group chat. I wish I would have gotten more feedback of some type, but the little bit of feedback I got was all fairly positive. So now, time for 3 of my biggest critics that I know to be critics. And it goes like this.
Yeah.
So the floor is yours.
Who would like to start on the floor?
We'll go in order on the
All right.
screen. Omar's on top, then Harun. Then
Well, on my
Abu
screen,
Hamza.
you're on top.
Nah, but we'll go by my
On
screen.
my
since it's
screen,
my
on my
idea.
screen, we're all sideways.
So you're right to left. Yola Harun, you're already talking.
Okay, so you want me to start? Okay, we're so good, man.
Oh, God.
All right, what can I say about the Muhammadan Presence? I'm not just going to give you my whole spiel in just right now, but I can just give you just like some preliminary thoughts. So I did read it a while ago, and then I've returned to it intermittently over the last like several weeks because we were kind of like, oh, we're going to talk about it, and then we didn't talk about it, and then we were like, we're going to talk about it, and then I just revisited it again today. I would say initially when I saw it, I was kind of like, you know what? This kind of reminds me of things I've heard, seen in the past, right? From Muslim thinkers, scholars, some of our teachers. So to be honest, like, and going through it, all your bullet points, it struck me as not really altogether, not too controversial and not too like, I would say original, not really like trend setting in the sense that, because I feel a lot of this has been articulated by others in different ways over the last few decades. I mean, I mentioned it to you. Remember that one time I'm like, oh, it sounds like a Sheikh Hamza style type of argument or something, something he's made in the past. And I think that's because if you look back at some of Sheikh Hamza's old writings and speeches, especially like post 9/11, when it was a time when Muslim community was being demonized and stigmatized and attacked and profiled at airports and whatnot, there was kind of like this imperative in the Muslim community to be like, we belong here. You can't demonize us. You can't exclude us. You can't consider us the other. We are here. We've been here since the founding of this country, and we will be here. And that's kind of the argument I was hearing from, the people like Sheikh Hamza at these ISNA conventions in like 2003, 2004, that we're not anti-American, despite what some people might do with our religion and stuff like that. And so Sheikh Hamza was actively calling for this type of integration that you're talking about, that Muslims have roots in this country, and we need to double down on those roots in all these different arenas, social, political, economic, educational. And Dr. Omar is very much the same thing. I mean, remember we mentioned this on the podcast, his article, Islam and the Cultural Imperative, right?
Yeah.
That came out a long time ago, right?
Yeah, bro, it was 04, I think.
That's like early 2000s. And
Yeah.
he's making the same exact argument about integration. And he uses the word integration. And he's saying that, because his whole talk is about like everywhere Islam went. Like if you think of Islam as like clear, crystal clear water, wherever it goes, it reflects the bedrock of the culture and the tribes and the peoples that it goes to. And he was arguing that, and he says this in the paper, that we shouldn't see the Islamic legal tradition as just a set of prohibitions and do's and don'ts and inhibitions and all that, but we should see it as something that can speak to our time and that can be, utilized to respond to all the challenges and that we face. And so he was arguing for that a long time ago. And so then I come to your piece, and I think with yours, you've kind of just added a lot more kind of flesh on the bone. You've kind of expanded on it and used more language. I think that you've included some more strategic imperatives, and that's good. And we can kind of go into those. But I think overall it's a good piece, and I think I like it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
It was a long way to say I like it, but
I mean, no. I got more to say. I just don't want to just
okay.
hold this pod hostage. I mean, I want you guys to, I want to hear from you guys. Yeah. So
he said that you added more flesh to the bone. That was a bar. Don't worry, it didn't go over my head, Harun. I caught that.
I know you would.
Come on.
Yeah. So did you want to start with the whole integration part or something?
Well, yeah, if you want to give your piece, or like what you just did right now, you kind of just gave a brief
opening
just
remarks.
The way, opening remarks.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing, because like I don't want to sit here and just talk for about half an hour. Like let's do it more like a conversation, like on the topic of integration, assimilation, isolation. What do you guys think about these? I mean, you agree with Omar's take?
1000%.
I got no choice.
1000%. I mean, it's by definition and by practice. So basically, the integration versus the assimilation. So basically, you don't want to have someone who just controls what you do and what you can't do and things like that. And also just society, you don't want to have that pressure. You need to have the iman within you to incorporate your Islamic lifestyle and Islamic practices in your daily lifestyle. I mean, we're in the West, so we do this. I pray Salat al-Asr in the mall. You know what I'm saying? That the mall, this is not going to stop me from doing that. So you need to be able to incorporate it. It's all goes hand in hand like that. It was very brief, within the article, but it was just right to the point. It was just right to the point. I like that.
Yeah.
The formula. We all need a formula. That's really how I took the entire article, right? So if you look at Islam, right, Islam is really a formula. It's like a cheat sheet to life, and this is how we practice and the laws we abide by. And even those bulletin points that you mentioned earlier, for me, those are like formulas. These are things that we incorporate in our lives. And another thing that you had mentioned was, people speaking on these speaking points before in the past, right? So that's very important, because that just shows that we're always planning for a future. Yes, these things we want to incorporate in the now to make a better now, but a better now only creates a better future. And this is the formula. Whether it's talking points, whether it's things that require discussion or things that require practice or things that require a doing or things that require a thinking, it all comes into play. Domino effect. Inshallah, we
Abu
get
Hamza,
there, man. We live to see it.
opening remarks to you.
Yeah, no, a lot's been touched on. I found the article, Harun succinctly, summarized the main points, especially like you're carrying on a conversation that's been and building off of a conversation, which is part of our tradition, right? If it's not something new, it's something that's a continued conversation of something of the past, from scholars in our tradition. So, yeah, so that was good. A lot could be said. I don't want to take, because I think engaging in the points that we'll come to in a bit later will be a good way of kind of addressing. I did like its length, like in the sense it wasn't overly verbose. And it was presented in a nice length. It wasn't too short, not too long, and it serves as a launching pad for further investigations, which is something that I think needs to be done. And I think you use the word manifesto. I could be wrong if I'm not mistaken. Maybe
I
maybe I
might
got it.
have.
Yeah, maybe, which is good because like it is kind of a manifesto in a way. So like
No, I don't have. I'm not
I
too
don't think
fond of
maybe you
that
didn't.
word though.
Maybe it came up. Maybe I saw something else that
Why you're not too
word.
fond of it, huh?
Well,
Bro,
because he doesn't like Marx, right? The manifesto is
I'm
I
not too
know.
much of a Marxist. It's
Aaron,
like
just embrace you don't need to let Marx hijack the
I
Yeah, it's a
know.
word ultimately, right? It's like
I
how,
know.
it's like, okay, as long as you're not putting Marx with it, like the word Marx
Yeah.
in Marxist
It,
manifesto,
hasha.
Yeah.
no, but
Now the
it is it.
Benjamin Marx.
No, but no, but some things do get like a bad rap. Like if we come on here and like we're like, I'm gonna hand it over to my comrade Omar. Like that, it's people are gonna get vibes.
I
Like
know.
these
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
are like, and then their thing is called a manifesto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's in its function, at least it's kind of a manifesto, but the word choice, it's a loaded word. So it's a call to
Call to action.
to
And
It's a
you
each
call
long
to
call to
action,
action.
call to bring one's it's a form of 10b, it's a form of 10b, like in the sense of not admonishment, but hey, let's get our act together. Let's think about things beyond ourselves and look at things out, as a societal and as well as an individual.
Yeah, and each layer or each kind of point that you're mentioning in here, whether it's like building community, to building mosques, third spaces, education, like each one of these, just like the mosque itself, that can be a whole separate article and a whole book and a whole discussion, right?
So
With
that's kind of so like
Islamic education can be a whole
yeah, it's a
topic.
whole unit. It's a thesis right
The,
there. Islamic
the arts
education.
can be a whole thesis.
Yeah.
So,
Look,
yeah.
3 out of the 4 of us are witnesses to Islamic education thesis, and we've seen the ups, downs, lefts, rights, and all the above at the same time. One of the things I struggled with in structuring this, I guess, was not to be verbose, and I was kind of sort of fearful. Substack lets you, it gives you like a little time clicker as soon as you finish typing everything. This will take 7 minutes to read, or blah 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 blah. So I thought, I'm like, okay, 7 minutes doesn't seem too long. But then the hardest part, I think, for me was trying not to go too long in various sections.
Mhm.
So it's like, do I
I
do the
think
unpacking of each section, or do I hope that someone else does in the near
I
future?
I think it's something that it could be something maybe of a collaborative venture for all of us, even if they're outside of us four, right, or guests or whoever, or even that's kind of the point, maybe a clause, a sentence in like one of some of the opening paragraphs, or even in the conclusion rather,
Yeah,
to highlight that, hey, look, this is just a launching pad for further discussion, right? Which is inferred for people, but to make it explicit.
yeah, can't hurt.
Good idea. Good idea. So to the one of his earlier points, ihsan and the spiritual excellence, has that changed like from speaker to speaker or from century to century or generation to generation? Has that changed? Because we see more shaitan probably than ever before. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. But just in my, you know, 30 plus years on this earth, like I feel like in the direction that we're going is just more, the evil is kind of growing. Yes, the good is growing as well, but they're both growing. So maybe the talking points on ihsan over the years from different talkers and speakers has evolved, and maybe it requires more. Because when you hear ihsan and you're like, yeah, God conscious, it's like a 30-second explanation, and then you get to the next point, right? But now when you see it, it's just, I think it needs to be more like emphasized and things like that, because that's the internal, right? That's where it begins. We know Islam is after the belief, it's the do, and it's an outward, that's Muslims, we live outwardly. But
Something that I would maybe not wouldn't necessarily use the word of push back, but something else to factor in is because ihsan is the manifestation of internal and external, right? So like tazkiyah, self-purification, self-perfection, like in the sense of like that's all interior, right? But how is the act manifested? It's through our intention, right? But it's also through the action itself, which is governed by the sacred law, right? And all of us have heard this probably dozens or countless times of that you have to have sharia and tariqah, right? You have to have both. And so the sacred law is the manifestation of that, and that it's inferred again in the article, but I think some sort of mention in it to highlight that, because theologically, I think this article is on point. There's nothing problematic about it as a whole, like in a theological sense. There are some other observations that we can get into when we get to the sections, hopefully.
Yes, let's not take too long because this is a long piece.
Yeah. But when it comes to the sacred law aspect with ihsan, which it's inferred, right? Living rightly, but how is that? How do you live rightly? How do you get yourself to a state of ihsan externally? It's through abiding by the sacred law. But yeah, I don't want to take too much time on it, but hopefully that makes some sort of sense.
no, it does, and that's what I was doing. I was just kind of getting right to these talking points. Ihsan was one of the early ones that was mentioned in the article. I think they all kind of, it's like one string, and each point it's on the same string. Everything is just from the same foundation. It's just a tree with branches, however you want to explain it. But basically, building community, masjid, physical spaces. That's one of your earlier talking points.
Yeah.
That's probably something that's a bit more.
Also on the point
Everyone's kind of on their own jersey. I'm gonna have to pull up the article again for that.
Also on the point of just to build on that point of ihsan, I think, yeah, looking at these different, like ihsan is ultimately, like Abu Hamza mentioned, abiding by the law and making sure that we're being true to our deen. And Omar, you mentioned that in the part about integration. Like integration means you don't, it's different from assimilation in the sense that you integrate, but you keep your values intact, you keep your beliefs, and you maintain your allegiance to the law. And so I think ihsan would be like in all of these different areas you've touched on, whether it's like education, it's the arts, it's in politics and whatnot. Like ihsan in these domains, it has to be grounded in values. It has to be value based. It can't just be we're just trying to get into this and fit in. Like I mean, there's one point where you talk about like Muslims, we need to support Muslims in like the mainstream entertainment and stuff like that. Well, does that mean like what does that look like? It can't. There has to be some type of
Standard.
Yeah, like a standard. There can't just be like, oh yeah, everybody go into the mainstream and just be like everybody else. But like the standard has to be intact. And obviously Muslims are a very diverse community. Some are going to go this way, that way, whatnot. But I think you mentioned it at the beginning, but like I think that the whole talk about ihsan just got me thinking of like, yeah, there has to be, everything has to be value based and ethical. Yeah,
Should there
but
be like it's like value based. Okay, what are those values? I know, I guess it's a lot to be assumed in this about values, but
yeah,
like,
yeah, you're assuming from your perspective, you know, like what we've been taught,
yeah,
right?
I
So
think what those values are is what keeps ihsan, right? Your morals, right? Your moral compass and things like that, like the your boundary, the line you're not gonna cross. Why? Because you want to please Allah. And what is that only going to do is just increase your faith, right? It's gonna, you feel like you're ihsan because that is internal, and you know you refraining from something, even though you, it's still a do, it's still a doing, it's still like a, you know, external thing. So really it's what is going to keep you from losing your ihsan, because getting ihsan, you know, sometimes even getting khushu' in salah might not be so difficult, but keeping it is a battle, you know, and everything is a battle. So I think really what's valuable is just those little things that, you know, that we can do, and the baby steps that we can take in order to keep, you know, the faith strong and just stay on our principles, you know,
you know,
keep our principles strong. That I think is just what's going to give us that nur, you know.
yeah.
So about that building community, you know, in person, specifically in person, you know. I guess, you know, it's in person, and nowadays it's online.
that's
But
why I got a section for online. But
the mosque, I like that point you made. I think when you were talking about the Prophet going from Mecca to Medina, and the first thing like he did was build a masjid,
mhm,
right?
yeah, Mr. Qubba.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every sheikh has mentioned, you know, raising the youth. Make sure that, you know, you bring them to the masjid often, even if it's for, you know, not a halaqah or not Quran class, or if he's, even if he's just gonna be there to mingle with other kids, you know, like it better there than
It
elsewhere.
did us. It did us wonders on it.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. That's for sure. Like that's something that
That's how you
I
start the
really,
article, right? Like with the masajid, right?
But that's the first section was community. Community, whether in person in the masjid, online, or I like your local Yemeni cafe.
Yeah,
One of those three.
yeah, that's it should be started with the mosque. I mean, that's
for
that's the
sure.
hub, that's the center.
For sure.
So yeah, I like that. Do you guys know about the I don't know if there's like an updated version of it, but there was this thing that the ISPU was doing. They were doing like mosque surveys, and they do these like every, I don't know, like 10, 15 years. I think it's every 10 years. But like their most recent one they did in like 2020. Maybe we can look it up, but ISPU is like the Institute for Social Policy and Institute for
Understanding.
Understandings. Yeah, something like that. And their 2021, they talked about, because they've been looking at like the growth and the trajectory of masajid over the years, and they found that from like in their last one, which was in 2020, they found that masajid grew, like there was like, according to their survey, there were like 2,000 or 2,100 masajid in like 2010, and then you fast forward till 2020, and they had like almost 2,800.
Wow.
So there's just like hundreds of more just in the span of 10 years. Now the question is like, you know, it's nice to see quantity. So I think the quantity is growing, you know, Muslim community for different reasons, you know, immigration, birth rate, conversions. It's nice to see that. So, and they've done research. I think like Dr. Ehsan Bagby, he was like the leader of that report. So it's nice to see the quantity, but is that translating into quality? Because there can be a lot of masajid that they're lacking like basic infrastructure, basic programming. Like, do you count it as like a good masajid where it's like they just do the prayers and there's like nothing else going on? Like, is that considered like, a good example of an Islamic center? I mean,
I
it's
think
obviously,
I think to be fair, give it another 5 to 7 years because we're
yeah.
in 2026. We're almost, we're touching halfway through.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful. Our
yeah, and
generation,
also,
Gen Z, shout out to them.
yeah, and also, there was something that I think Dr. Bagby mentioned. He said that like a big percentage, like it's a big percentage of the Muslim community is like 18 to 34. This block, and their mosque participation rate is like average, but at least it's better than non-Muslim communities.
Yeah.
So there's some like some positives to what he outlined too. But at the same time, like I do think that there isn't a need to really, if there is like people panicking or whatnot, like how long have Muslims compared to other communities, and we know this, right, from like Jews, Catholics, other groups, how long have they been here in this country? The time they've gotten to establish their financial power, their economic power, their educational power, institutional power. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, yes, Muslims, like in terms of like when it comes to being brought here on slave ships and things like that, they were a minority. But when it comes to Muslims establishing serious institutional power, it's like 20th century and mid 20th century. After the 60s, you had that 65 Immigration Act. And then you see like, more Muslims coming from Middle East, South Asia, and these masajid being established. You talk about like Waqf and Awqaf, you see some of these emerge in the 70s out of the MSA, out of the people who started the MSAs, right? Some of these like doctors, engineers who came abroad at that time. So a lot of like I think there isn't really, it's kind of like you, like there isn't really a need to panic, in the sense like this is good. Maybe we're at a good place. The community is at a good place, right?
I agree.
And yes, we're gonna experience all the challenges and problems that everybody else is going through. That's just a given. We're part of the fabric of this society. So yeah, I guess and Nadir said too, like yes, there are a lot of issues and problems given like new technology and AI, and we could touch on that too. But given where we're at, if somebody did like an honest assessment of where Muslims are at, like maybe it might not be, maybe it might be like on track.
I would say
or
it is on
par
track,
with other
bro.
communities, right?
Like, I think a lot about those ahadith where the Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like, stop saying the dunya is ma'oon, or the one who says that the ummah is damned themselves, or anything like that. Should we have work to do? Yeah, there's pockets of places in this country where we got a lot of work to do. Like, I met a Muslim girl, a young Muslim sister, when I interviewed for Wake Forest in North Carolina. Her first Muslim friend was freshman year in college.
Mhm.
That's crazy. So it's like, but at the same time, go to Detroit, go to Dearborn, come to Patterson, Toronto. We've been there for decades, 50 years, 50 plus years. Things are fine. It'll
Yeah.
even out. But it's like, at the same time, like we're good. Mashallah, alhamdulillah for us. Now with like this third space stuff, with like community and what is it? It was like the Washington Post or no, Wall Street Journal had an article like the Yemeni cafes and whatnot. It's like, a place where young people can hang without the alcohol and they really truly enjoy themselves. Whoa, look at this.
Yeah.
Like at my wedding, I had a bunch of my non-Muslim friends. Oh, I didn't know you didn't have fun without alcohol at a wedding. Well, obviously.
Yeah. I think a lot of the kind of, all that, the pessimism and the despair, I think it's attached to global realities too. Like we look at just Muslim countries and we look at like, well, we came from there, like the Muslim world is, you hear just slogans, right? And some of them, this is based in reality, right? Like Muslim countries are a wreck. There's poverty, there's this, Muslims don't know how to, Muslims can't get their act together. And then obviously, like we're connected to a lot of those realities based because of US foreign policy, right? And then, you know, it seems like we feel kind of powerless to be able to affect change for our brothers and sisters overseas. So that gets us frustrated and we start feeling more down. But at the same time, I would say, like, look, there has to be like a, you know, like a gradual kind of growth towards it, right? Like we weren't even seeing, like, I mean, you know, so many Muslims I've seen just in spaces which you wouldn't see Muslims normally, right? And like whether it's in local government, right, or in big businesses, starting businesses, there's a lot of stuff on the ground that's going on that I think a lot of people are not maybe aware of or in tune with. So I think, like, people need to look at, like, what is actually taking place instead of just looking at a lot of these grand issues and just getting bogged down, because there's a lot to not like, but I think, like, we shouldn't just focus on that. Like, if the microscope is on the negatives, then obviously you're not going to see the positives. But I don't know.
That's a good point. That's a good point. If the microscope is on the negatives, you're not going to see the positives. You're right. And that's something that I actually wanted to mention to you guys off camera. But basically, I want this podcast to also like highlight and kind of give like the ummah their flowers. You know, I think we should have an episode or multiple episodes where we just talk about the bright side of things, right? So the rising in the West, right? It's rising in the West, it's not falling in the West. So our talking points really should be, you know, uplifting and motivational, and look what we are doing, right? Even if you was to go right now, you mentioned Patterson, New Jersey. You know what was the first thing that hit my head? The first masjid that opened up in Patterson, New Jersey, is still a masjid today. And guess what? So was the second one. So was the third one. You know what I mean? It really says a
Yeah, I know.
lot, you
That was
know?
like in the 50s.
It really says a lot. So,
Yeah.
and I think we're on track. I'm with you, Omar, earlier, like when you said, I think we are on track. I think we're even moving faster than anyone else, right? Think about it. Muslims are the only people to have an empire that will rise and fall and rise again. Just us. And guess what? We're gonna have communities that will probably rise and fall and rise again, right?
Yeah,
And
but yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I don't want to, like, we should be optimistic, right? And we should have gratitude, like when you show gratitude, Allah increases you, etc. But even staying on the topic of masajid, I mean, there's plenty to be proud of, but there's also, like, I hear the same stuff over and over again, like, you know, or like masajid that are just, you know, these people in one masajid, they had a falling out, so they went somewhere else. They established their masajid. Then there was like a falling out over there. Then they established their masajid, and it's like I heard so many of these stories. Like, people cannot, like, keep it together as well, right?
People, bro.
I don't think there's
Yeah.
really a business or the board, the Muslim
And just
board or whatever.
and just like mismanagement of funds and money, like. But then again, that's got to be common
Money.
across.
That's
It's
common.
got to be common across every space and every group,
Or
you know.
in every household, in every business, small, large, between friends, anything, bro. Like that's just part of the territory of life. That's just part of humanity, you know. And there's going to be some unfortunate things that happen too, but it doesn't slow down the process. It doesn't stop us from making that one giant leap for mankind, you know. So where are we at here? I'm scrolling through the article right now.
Abu Hamza, you was going to say something?
Yeah, let me go back to this article.
So,
Where are we?
skewer me, y'all. We're going through a lot of agreement here. It's not the point, it's to agree.
Right.
Yes, where do you disagree?
What I disagree on is with the kind of, I don't know if I'm piggybacking off what Haidun said, but it kind of made me we're doing the same thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And this and that. So I think there needs to be, incorporate new things, right? Because we live in a world where people ain't really outside like that. Or if you announce, an interfaith, session, I don't even know if people are going to show up, right? Because people are going to fear what they don't understand, and they're just going to say, "Hey, I don't care about that because I don't believe in that." But the reality is, for us and for them, is that we have a shared space, and it's not just a workplace, right? It's our neighborhoods and everything like that. So we need to understand each other, so that way we can prosper. Because it's not us against them. It's not religion, this religion versus this religion, or this sect versus that sect, and that cult is that, and this and that. Because the law is the same for us, and it is that like it is for them, right? So at the same time, if we want to flourish as communities, um, we have to be side by side, right? Imam Qatanani was big on that. That's one thing that I really liked about him. A guy who's not raised in the West, a guy who spoke broken English, but that was his like big thing. And he loved interfaith more than anything else. Um, because guess what? They have to share their communities, and we have to share our communities. And I love that. I don't want a community all to myself, right? Even if the Prophet wanted a community, the Muslims to have a community all to themselves, he wouldn't have gave, the opportunity for non-Muslims to live there and have their own court system, right?
So
So
I see you. Part of
yeah,
it's like, I know it's like, like what you and Haroon is saying about, I just like recycling the conversation. Sure, it's a good conversation to recycle. I have,
Yeah. Put some interfaith in there.
I despise interfaith. It's a miserable experience. My thing is, it's like, with this, I've heard the general simulation talk, but never really necessarily complemented with food access and economics and a political structure and what's going to drive that and all these other things. So it's like,
food
disagree
drives, for
with me,
example.
y'all.
No, no,
Disagree
no,
with
no,
me.
no. I can't because of that viral video of the lady who called the church and was like, "I need baby food," and they're like, "What do you think this is?" Especially that she calls them masjid. And they're like, "What do you need? Come through. You need us to come to you? You prefer to deal with a woman? Like, how old's the baby?" Anyway, but like, yeah. So I can't disagree with you on that.
Yeah, but isn't that what like some like humanitarian organizations are involved? They're involved in like domestic work too. It's
Yeah,
not
I
just
mean,
it's
hey,
not just like money going to like overseas and stuff too, right? And obviously like I've seen you know Masjid doing these food drives and whatnot, collecting food for people and clothing, and there's a lot of that's very like common. But I guess like so like what is your like what is the point? Is it just like Muslims need to do more or like well,
yeah. Give me a Rami Nashashibi in Chicago who opens up a bodega only selling organic vegetables and organic fruits. How he was able to subsidize that for people who have made little to no money in downtown Chicago, that is fantastic.
yeah,
Even,
okay, yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like Imam Zaid one time at RAS shouted out a bunch of sisters from MCC Bay Area, the MCC Masjid in Pleasanton, because they got a hold of Sundiata and Lighthouse and was like, "Hey, Sundiata, our team, I'll fundraise for you $300,000. Let's divvy it up the right way."
I think what you're saying is kind of like what on the lines of Mamdani too, because he announced that I think they're going to start this pilot for city run grocery stores. So and these are specifically for people who are gonna who have low income and
Yeah,
they can't afford. They're having struggle. They're
telling
having
you, I'm
trouble
down in
affording groceries.
2028, y'all.
inshallah,
Don't
to
break
a
the law. You
point.
can't. He wasn't born in the United States. You have to be born here to become president.
Yeah, yeah.
But still,
Yeah, yeah. Uh, okay.
I guess so. What does success look like in the sense of? I guess let me phrase the question. and you tell me if this is what you're trying to get at. What does success look like in the sense of, going along the lines of your conclusion, academia, business, and mental health?
Like, this is
I
my
guess
conclusion.
I'll include community in there too, even though I guess you can go hand in hand. But basically, yeah. So what does success look like in the academia and the business? And I think we touch base on academia a lot and very often. I mean, people can binge our channel at this point and see a lot of academia there, and academic points. I think mental health, business, community are like,
No, I think you're misunderstanding those first two sentences. The question, what does success look like, is asked often in different contexts. Because we see that, like in mental health and
Sure.
chaplaincy, someone comes to you with a problem, you're able to highlight the problem and then just say, okay, we understand that the problem is as such. Cool. What does success look like? Business. You have a thing. What's your project looking like? What does success look like? Oh, we need to make, $350,000 in the next 5 quarters, for example. Profit. Academia. What was it? Michaud, Allah yarhamu. At least he told us, he was like, the best thesis is a finished thesis. That's what success looks like. And then the next one, if you're to be driven by ihsan, success looks like Allah's pleasure.
mm,
So if you didn't do it, they didn't feed into each other. Don't matter if it's business, academia, politics, Yemeni cafes, whatever. Your own personal, like growth and well-being. If what you're doing is for Allah's pleasure, you'll get the success.
Yeah.
this is gonna need a part two, guys. I don't know, but
Wait, the article or
no, the episode. We're gonna have to part two this.
why? You guys
Be-
want to go through and agree with me on every section? Because that's what it sounds like.
No, we don't
Not-
agree with this. We don't agree with this. We're
So
just
you
being
disagree.
I can't disagree with. We all can't disagree in the next 5 minutes. Is what I'm saying. I don't know if that's hard to understand,
So
but like,
fast forward to the part you disagree with.
What?
yeah. Go ahead.
You
already-
two, Mexican Jesus over here, bro.
We already disagreed with your lack of interfaith appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I've seen interfaith succeed in one thing: having the rabbi and Father what's his name come to the courthouse in 2008 and speak in behalf of Sheikh Qatanan. That's it. I've seen the freaking interfaith loop over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
But I think interfaith is important for the individual. So
I don't want to
everyone
sit
who
through another hi, how are you? We believe in the Trinity and you believe in Allah and we're both monotheists. Okay, here's some Turkish food.
but no,
Who wants
no.
naan?
That's not what interfaith is, dog.
That's a bunch of the interfaith, whatever I've been to, bro.
I
All
mean,
right.
like, I'm down for interfaith as but we should be able to address like elephants and monkeys in the room, like, like I'm not gonna sit here with Zionist rabbi and like we're just gonna ignore like the elephant in the room, like, you know what I'm saying, like, so
Dude, I sat
all-
through an interfaith. I sat through an interfaith that Batul emceed, and Zionist rabbi came up on stage as two Christians, the Muslim, all prayed for the world for peace. Hold on. I'm going to call out Mr. Zionist rabbi who only prayed for Israel.
Yeah. No. I am for it. I'm for it. Like, I would love to be on the panel and politely dismantle his evil.
I
Like,
wish. Oh my God, I want to.
I think we should, like, this is like, because what you're saying with integration is just like, we're just gonna do dawah without being confrontational. I think what you need to add to this piece is like, we have to be confrontational in these spaces because our values are fundamentally at odds with the degeneracy of so much of this landscape, right? If you're talking about, like, I brought up the music industry, right? There's so much degeneracy. So we want to just like boost our Muslims into this without giving them, the tools. And on top of that, Like
Harun, write about it. I'll publish it on the site.
I could go on and on. You mentioned something. What else did you write? I came across this thing where you're like, we need to develop relationships with these major corporations and financial institutions. Man, these are all riba based, usury based financial institutions and corporations. They're steeped in haram and what are you talking about? Like what is that relationship going to look like, and how does it function? And so it's like we fundamentally, like, I think the integration has to be at times very uncomfortable, and it has to be confrontational, because I think that yes, I am for interfaith, but not that, like, that
Photo op interface.
yeah. I'm not for that kind of stuff.
So
I could go on, man.
Yeah, I agree with his observation. There's like a tension between like holistic mainstream integration with parallel structures that exist already. Right. So like Fortune 500 companies that you're talking about that are, or banks, right? Like what you were being mentioned. As some examples. Right. The other thing too, which is more of an internal issue with Muslims in any community, but especially in the West, as diverse as it is because of the diversity, is that there's an assumption of it being like a monolithic community.
Yeah.
So this sense of pan-Islamism, is it realistically going to be applicable in this day and age in a Western society? To a certain extent, yeah, I think so, but it's not going to be comfortable. And you can look at the greater good of the unity, right? But you're going to have a very large minority of people that are going to be not even come to the table because of those differences in the first place. Because they're going to come up with, they already have these biases, and they're programmed in their head, right? And they're like, oh, they're going to call them shayateen, or they're going to call them mushrikeen, or or any other derogatory word. When, and that's one of the reasons why the study of Aqidah is very important, because you understand that there's orthodoxy, but someone who's not a non-Muslim, right, that's a different subject entirely, or someone who is heterodox, right? But there's not outside of the general umbrella of Islam, right? But even then, you're still going to have like this. There's this tension even within our own community. So even you have this integration, right, which is one of the main main cornerstone arguments in the article. But something that's going to need to be fleshed out and acknowledged and brought to be addressed is that even within our own community, this goes back to the discussions. I think we may have had them in the past, or it might have been a podcast, I'm not sure. But what is a tradition, right? What is the tradition
that's
itself?
a good conversation right there. Wow.
Right? Like, what is the tradition itself, right? Like, because you have, and we discussed this as Zaytuna, alhamdulillah, like when we had Dr. Omar Qureshi, in Islamic
I got a question
Muslim.
for you. Is the tradition behind you right now?
But like, because you have, so that's where, like,
isn't that the Shihab Ahmed book, like what is Islam or something?
Yeah, there's a lot that could be said on that book.
That book like, complicates everything.
Yeah, there's a lot that could be said on that book, but one book that it's a dense book on moral philosophy. But Alistair McIntyre's After Virtue it's a good book and that's where some of the teachers that I had, they agreed with this. I'm not going to make this complicated, but ultimately it's like the tradition has external interpretations or rival interpretations, if you want to call them as such, and then you have internal interpretations within a tradition, and they're all vying for what's considered like the authoritative or the official position, right? And a lot more could be said on this. I don't want to take 50 minutes. Yeah.
No, so here's the thing. Hey, I'll defend my 2 points. Building relationships with major corporations. Who says that we can't build those relationships on our own accord? Who says we can't build them relationships on the values that we stand?
Do you think Apple is going to want to, like, I mean, it depends.
Hey, if we present it the right way.
It depends, like, what is
We're one of the richest minorities in the United States.
It depends on the
Imagine,
relationship.
I know it depends
If
on
a
the
company is
relationship.
far greater in like market share and power and revenue, and you're like down here, they have no reason to come down to your standard.
Who? Whoa, come down to our standard. They'd be coming up to our standard, my friend.
Facts, facts. But well, we see it that way. Maybe they don't see it that way.
Then we
Maybe they will
present it
just.
that way. Then we present it. The Muslim spending power in the
But
United States is something immense. Imagine you could laser focus that effort into a product.
Into lobbying?
What does it have to be formal lobbying? We got lobbies out there, Muslim Political Action Network and whatever else that's there to their varying degrees of effectiveness.
they're already getting free money from Israel. They don't care
But
about what.
I'm not saying these type things are impossible. I'm just saying there's landmines, and there are things that have to be, people have to be cautious of when entering into
Of
this.
course.
Like,
That's fine.
Of
Yeah,
course,
that's
it's
fine.
like to be clear on what it is to be. Now we stand on this. You sign your name on that paper. We can dedicate this much resources to this endeavor.
yeah, and then we go around and put this money into like interest-bearing accounts.
Does it have to be interest-bearing accounts?
Yeah, come on, Harun. Don't do
I
us
think
like
some
that.
of the criteria and stuff like that would have to be full transparency.
Of course, full transparency. We'll do
It
all
has
the
to be
things
full
right.
transparency because like the business world, we all know it's messed up.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
honestly every other day somebody tells me about something like like shorting a stock and stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this stuff? You can't, like, people don't even know. They act like this is just like
So-
normal.
Right, right.
So much of this stuff is like just blatantly haram, and we're just like accepting it.
I think
Like-
one of the biggest topics that you brought in that hasn't been discussed in Western literature that I've seen in English, and if so, it's peripheral, is economics. Right? We like that. That's huge. That is huge, right? Because we have our own models. Some of them are relevant and are applicable in the modern day and age. Some of them would be seen more challenging to implement, right? But at the same time, it's like we have our own model. There's so much literature of this in Arabic, and there's some areas that are doing great research in this. Some of it's compromises, like when we, if you remember your course you took with Sheikh Abdullah with like mortgages, right, and Islamic finance, right?
Good times.
We don't have the time for all that, but again, that's a very heated discussion on that. But that being said, there is huge room for even just the ethical side. When you're talking about the ethics and morality, we have dozens of literature. I just started a class in January. It finished, but they're going over, so a leading figure in this is Dr. Adi Setia. He's a Malaysian. He was a student of Sayyid Naqib al-Attas, rahimahullah. But he has done a lot of translations, a lot of work on what he calls Islamic gift economy, and also the ethics and the morality of practicing business and commerce, and translations of very significant texts in our tradition. And some of them are very practical. And he's actually teaching on these books as well currently. Like he finished Ghazali last year from the Ihya Ulumuddin.
Yo, send me this dude's whatever, bro. I put it in the show notes.
His other course that I actually did sit through from beginning to end was Kitab al-Kasb by Imam al-Shaybani, the prominent Hanafi student of Abu Hanifa rahimahumullah. And then the next one that he's covering is something that's really fascinating, which is really, really practical and probably the most relevant to commerce and trade, even in a modern day. I can get the title for you, but like this is an important thing, and this is also like it's good to see. I know the Zaytuna has, the Zaytuna has developed. Oh, subhanallah, I got a call. I have to take this, but I can add to this so when we edit. Let me finish my thought. Inshallah.
Don't stress it.
Basically, it's a broken system that needs to be challenged. And who better
Yes.
than the Muslims? Why? Because we have the best principles. We have the best. Our authority is Allah. You know what I'm saying? So, and on top of that, if you look at, even why the Ottoman was so successful is because not just their location, but just because of how their business strategic was, right? Even people even the prophet's first wife is a businesswoman. You know what I'm saying? So like we need to be on the business tip, on the business sector of things. It's very, very important because money do make the world go round, and there's no shame to admit that, but at the same time, like, I'm all about them halal dollars, and
Yeah,
uh, a a system can function just fine, a country can function just fine, a community can function
Yeah,
just fine.
buy Muslim, y'all.
yeah.
Boy, cat.
If anything is gonna stunt the Muhammadan vision, it's gonna be like delving into haram. Remember we touched on that hadith. But anyway, I liked how Abu Hamza brought up that point about like we're not a monolith. The community is so diverse, it's so different and unique, and a lot of people you ask them, they don't even
Hey,
they,
that was the
they,
other thing. That was the other thing. You question my pan-Islamism. Him over there on the phone now. I'm not trying to be pan-Islamist. I'm not trying to be pan-Islamist. Well, my
What does
thing
that
is
mean?
like,
You're not trying to be Jamal Abdel Nasser?
no, I'm not trying to be Jamal Abdel Nasser. So pan-Islamist is an idea that came from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s of like reunifying the Muslim world under like one banner. So it's one giant nation state instead of like a collection of 20 or 50, whatever, of them that there
Physically
are.
or idea, like, is this
At
gonna be
least
like,
idea. At least idea. There's been there's a version of it where it's just one giant Muslim state from Morocco to Malaysia. The
oh wow,
whole thing. Another one is to do something similar to like the European Union. You get like the German citizenship, for example, and you're able to just zigzag through the EU, willy-nilly. It's like, boom, you flash the German thing, then you keep it moving. That's one of the things about Brexit when you have like this counteracted force by like the Peter Thiels of the world and the JD Vances and whatnot to say, okay, like tribalism because money. And I'm reading that article I sent to you guys. Mimetic desire, which is that at the crux of it says that people want because others have it.
mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason why. So this becomes like the whole thing of what it means to be human. You can be very reductionist to what it means to be human, and that's the thing. And this is just what it is. And that's the idea. So what's the counteracting thought? No, we could be better than that.
Yeah, I hate when rich say that, like the less fortunate are just jealous.
Yeah, it's like
Oh.
piss off.
Where is this, like, what is this maxim? Like, who created this? Like,
Give it, bro. It's like some variation of like the prosperity gospel, I would imagine.
oh,
Nonetheless,
they're
but
haters
it's
because they're
like
just jealous.
I know haters because they're jealous. But it's also like this the other thing. It's like forget like these Muslim leaders because how many good ones do we have? I gave up on that a couple years ago. If the people can come together, just as like one thing I learned in Michel's history classes, and even to like a certain extent, like when I did with Dr. Timur, was like if you look at most of Islamic history,
Yeah.
even like up until like the coming of the nation state that's been imposed on us, you find people just functioned. It functioned fairly well without government, especially on the periphery. Like when we started, like my first exposure to that was who is that? Islam View from the Edge. Richard Bulliott's book, Islam View from the Edge. Okay, cool. But then like you just find the reality of that across the history, most of the Islamic history. Us in the West, we're technically on the edge here in the United States, as much as
So
America is
are
in the
you
center of the world. I'm
are
saying let's
are
just if people come
Yeah,
together
that's
to
a good
do it,
analogy. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
if people come together to do it, then you can naturally. I believe that I'm going to argue and posit that you can have like this organic pan-Arabism. That when Yahya grows up to be the first president of the United States, he can usher.
Pan-Arabism?
Oh, pan-Islamism. Sorry, Jamal Abdel Nasser. Thank you. So when Yahya grows up to become first president of the United States, first real Muslim president. Sorry, Obama. First real Muslim president of the United States. And all these kids that grow up to be this, and they've witnessed all this insanity in the world. Then it's like, oh, okay, you could cultivate like a generation of thinkers that are just going to function differently than our parents did and our grandparents did and the previous political structures to then push it to something better.
Yeah, that's what happens, right?
I know, but hence the thing. It's like y'all are pushing back. It's like, oh, look, you mean it was pan-Islamism. I'm not trying to be pan-Islamism. Screw the flag. Screw the nation state. I wish you'd be here to hear me push back on them. But those are my 2 points where I'm going to defend myself. Carry on. Next point of criticism.
No, but you could be you could be accused of being kind of like a Pan-American Islamist, right? Like you want
You mean my
American,
American exceptionalism?
yeah, you want like you want something Islamic here, and some people could come like we
You
were
know what my
one
response
of
is to
the
that? You know what my response is to that? I live here.
Yeah,
yeah, but
that's what I'm saying.
somebody
That's what I was
This is
thinking.
my
somebody could
home,
look
dog.
at this.
I'm
I'm
as
just saying,
American as Joe is next door, or whatever his name is.
somebody could look at this and be what is the I mean, Islam to me is very simple. You just got your pillars, you got your basics. What is the need? What is even the need of like you're like investing so much time and money and dollars in this? I'm saying somebody can make this critique. Like it's just you live, you do your Islam, you know, I can practice it here, I can do it in somewhere else. Like what is the need of
How many
doing
how
all
many
of it?
how many of their children are still Muslim to this very day
Facts.
without going overseas?
Yeah, but they're
Dude,
different people.
my mom called me. She's like, I need a favor. I said, what happened? I don't know who the parents are, but she's describing this family as like they live in a rich part of town, in a rich part of New Jersey, and they provide their kid with this, that, and the third. He lives a fantastic life. He goes to like this public, like this private school, has like the finest education with the finest organic foods, with the finest everything. Like, mommy, does he go to the masjid? No, not really. But they just going over there to take care of their kid. The parents go in there in the first row of the salah. They donate $5,000, $10,000 every so often. And now their kid at 14 years old figured out life and was like, I don't need Islam anymore. I don't even believe in God. I'm like, and you
Yeah, but
want me to talk to him?
you need very little to pass on Islam to your kids. Like if your
Dude,
parents are good, you got a little masajid in the corner. I don't need like something people in even the darkest
yo,
places have been
they
able
need
to.
that because they got a bright kid who needs more than just no because it's haram just because.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to tell you, like
I
this seems
know. And if
very.
that's the criticism, should I clip this and put it on social media or something?
This is not the only criticism. This is one of the criticisms.
All right, hurry up. What's the next one?
We-
No, I
we-
want your criticism, dog. I don't need some imaginary uncle
Yeah.
telling me where I got wrong.
What do you mean, some imaginary uncle?
Some imaginary uncle who hasn't left like freaking Clifton or whatever it is, or Sterling Heights, all of a sudden has like the giant pulse of what it is to be Muslim in the United States in 2026.
No, I'm just trying to complicate it for you because I
It's
mean,
this-
like,
No, I want
Yeah.
your complications, Harun
Yeah.
Imtiaz.
I mean, you like first you just kind of like assume the tradition is like everything behind Abu Hamza's Kufi, like that's your assumption, right? But it's a lot more.
That's not fair.
I mean, all those books, man. Like the whole tradition is like Ibn Kathir. Like I know it's not.
Hey, look, I work with people who believe that. I got a lot of work to do, nonetheless.
Yeah. No,
About that, I had a call from
Yes.
a student, so I apologize.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
yeah, and I think you know what? Actually, I will go back to one point you made about Muslims on the periphery. I think too much of kind of Orientalist literature. It reduces the relations of the East and the West to like power dynamics and like nation states and the interaction of rulers, and we forget that with what's like happening underneath, everything organic, everything natural, all of the elements that make Islamic civilization thrive, right? I think we need to look at like groups having individual groups, like small groups having power, and we touched upon this like in one of these older podcasts where there's that verse in the Quran about the story after Allah talks about the story of David and Goliath, and then Allah mentions that like how many times has a smaller group outlasted or out defeated a much larger, right? I think that should be something we hold on to as like yes, we can grow and become something as a group, as a ummah, as a community, right? And there is something to, I think, having a general body of people who are in agreement that can put forward uh, our priorities, because you need that type of power, or else like we are just going to kind of get uh, lost in our own ethnic and our small little petty communities and whatnot, which is already kind of happening.
Yes.
But this, yeah, there is power to like people on the ground. Like that is where I think the real power can come from, right? It doesn't have to be focused so much on the top down. So I like that. I If there's anything else you want me to critique, I can do that too.
Go, give it to me all. I don't know how long we've been recording, so apologies if
Are we like way over?
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I think so. We started recording like pretty quick, like 5:10. So we've been on
Oh, it's
for
about
over
an
an
hour.
hour. Yeah, maybe a little more. Maybe a little more.
Should we
Okay.
part? Do you want to really want to do we still doing a part 2 this time?
I think we should. I think we
Maybe
should.
maybe we could
All right.
part
So
two.
before we depart, here's one I got. Like in the beginning, you guys were saying like, oh, how these points need to be unpackaged. I thought about doing it myself, but like I don't have the strong suit, nor at the moment the time. But I don't, like not all these areas are like my strong suit, so it'll take me forever to do these. But it's like if y'all are willing, go down. If you have the time, like pick a section, and that we'll collaborate on it. And I just publish, we'll do grammar check and whatnot, and then I'll put online just something for the consumer if they'd like to consume that, and if it triggers something, may Allah accept. May Allah accept regardless. Um, but yeah, just something to ponder and figure out, and to ponder about. Cool.
Inshallah.
Harun,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want your scathing critique of the degeneracy of the current music industry.
Yeah. Yeah, you like I said, I'll go back to that point, If you want honest integration, it has to be confrontational integration.
Yes,
It's gonna have to be, there's no other way, because
Nope.
our values, our beliefs, principles are fundamentally at odds with what has become so normalized in the society. I get these gambling ads, DraftKings and Sportsbook and Polymarket in my face every single day. Like this is not normal.
Nope.
Like this is not normal. Like and so much of this haram and fasad is just like normalized. And so I think the contribution and the integration is going to be, it has, if we're being honest, it's not going to be pretty at times.
Nope. I'm all for it. Let's get to fighting. I'm willing to hurt feelings if I have to. And
Yeah.
then we'll drink
But then-
coffee and keep it moving.
But then the hurting feelings and all that, it risks like isolating you even more, and you become more of like, that persecuted group. And that it backfires against your whole like integration.
Yeah, I know. We don't have to be like, douchebags about it, but I'm with you, bro. Like I see where you're coming from with just
That's why
talking
it's
about the
important that we
unintended.
create our own spaces as well. I know we talked
Yeah.
about that like maybe 3 podcasts ago, but yeah, creating
Yeah.
our own spaces as well is like super, super important, bro.
Yeah, you
To
should do both. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important because Islam is unification. At the end of the day, once we do that, these people, these degenerates, they're going to see like it's very hard to not notice something so beautiful and so peaceful. No one's ever walked past a rainbow and didn't make a look at it. No one.
Yeah.
Anything, and Islam is that rainbow in the middle of the hood, right? So
That's a good way to put it.
when people come across Islam, they really see the beauty in it, right? And because for the most part, people don't really chase truth. That's not, oh, I'm seeking truth. Oh, if it's true, true. No one really lives for honesty. That's not this. It is what it is, right? But they just want to find some not necessarily like something that they could fit in, but once they see that like beauty and all of these things that make sense and prove to be true, you cannot argue, right? And naturally your body's internally, your inclination is to just go for it and go towards it, right? So like Harun mentioned earlier, these little baby steps that we make. And maybe, Harun, to give you a response to the question you asked about the person where maybe it shrinks their world, maybe that needs to happen, and that person, or that, I don't want to say generation because I don't think it's going to take that long, but maybe someone needs to go to battle. Somebody needs to die. We need to have a soldier at the front line. Sorry, but that is what it is.
Look,
And
we don't need another Malcolm. We need another Malcolm. We don't need Malcolm X dying again the way he did. But I do see what you're talking about. Rahimahullah.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna pave a way for inshallah, like a greater good, because people are going to see, and people already waking up now. People are so fed up, and
Yep.
people are struggling. Right?
So here's the thing. It's just
Yeah.
to, for the sake of time, Nadia, I'm going to take your point and I'm going to try to wrap it up. Unpack this, y'all. And I hope that you guys, end up finding a moment to just pick something and type it out, and, we can grow something out of it, inshallah. And we'll just take it from there, yo. Seems like, I don't know. Tune in next time to see what happens.
Yeah, part 2.
Part 2? Sure. I don't know. Part 2, inshallah. We'll figure it out. And disagree with me.
Yeah.
Word. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
So.
All right.